Desensitized is a channel that celebrates fandoms in whatever form they may take. I typically discuss anime and animation on this channel, as those tend to be my primary interest. However, there is one fandom of mine that is particularly stronger than the rest, and that is Survivor. I'm a massive fan of Survivor, and it is a fandom that I actively participate more than any other in my life. Of course, I have seen every season, and at the time of this recording, that is 48 seasons, and I have enjoyed them all greatly. As any Survivor fan knows, Survivor 50 has basically been the elephant in the room for years now. After Survivor 40, Winners at War, many fans have speculated where can the show possibly go from here. Immediately after Survivor 40, we jumped into the new era, consisting of seasons 41 through 48, which would be defined by less days, going from 39 to 26, one location, always staying in Fiji, less grandiose rewards, and an overall more low-key feel. Many fans refer to the new era as the budget era. On top of that, in this new era, they have focused on all new casts with no returnee seasons, something that the fandom has been clamoring for since Survivor 40. About a year ago, Jeff Probst announced that Survivor 50 would be a season of all returnees that celebrates the history of Survivor. Now, this was something to get excited about. Who would they pick? Would there be a specific theme? Will it still be 26 days? Will it include any winners? All these questions and more have been swimming around in my head for months since Jeff confirmed that, and it is my goal in this video to get to the bottom of all of that. Now that the cast has been officially confirmed, in this video I would like to go through the cast list to discuss the good, the bad, and the WTF of what will be our Survivor 50 cast list. Before we dive in, I'd like to highlight we actually have 24 contestants competing on this season, an unprecedented amount of players, which is something that I'm actually excited about. But it does beg the question, how will the season work if there's 24 players over the course of 26 days? The production would either have to significantly ramp up the pace of how players are booted out or increase the amount of days that they are on the island. I really hope they go with the latter. More days is something the community has been demanding for a long time now, especially with the inclusion of so many old era players who will have to adapt to a new era game. It would be interesting to see the new era players adapting to a longer old school style game, but I digress. The first player announced going all the way back to the first season of Survivor back in the year 2000 is Jenna Lewis Doherty. Jenna has had 2 appearances, including her season 1 and an all-star appearance later on. I like this casting a lot. I do think it's important to include somebody from the OG season, and Jenna was considered to be a very hard player in her time. It's been so long since we've seen her, so I don't have too many thoughts, but I am excited to see what kind of energy she brings to the game now that it looks so different from when she last played. Colby Donaldson is objectively an iconic player when it comes to the pantheon of Survivor. In his first appearance, he was a dominant player, beloved by the community, whose reputation has only soured with each appearance. I understand why he would be chosen to represent the history of Survivor, however, I don't have any personal investment in his return. I feel like I've seen everything I need to see out of Colby, and his last appearance left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm surprised that they would cast Colby without casting Jerry, but if I'm being honest, I don't need to see her play again either. Stephanie LaGrossa Kendrick is a player that I am very excited to see come back for 50. She has an awesome origin story as being the first and only player to be on a tribe of 1 when all of her tribe mates were voted off and she was left to spend the night alone in the jungle. Although an iconic moment in television history, she hasn't made much of a splash with her subsequent appearances. She recently played on The Traitors where she was eliminated by Cirie, which may lead to some interesting dynamics on 50. Speaking of Cirie, the greatest player to never win is back with a record-breaking amount of appearances on Survivor. This will be her 5th at-bat for American Survivor, and she'll be competing this summer on Australia versus the World Survivor. I'm conflicted when it comes to Cirie. On one hand, she is a Survivor GOAT. She has played a large role in developing the game strategically, and has a large role in molding the identity of Survivor in general. To quote Jeff, she is the woman who got off the couch to come and play, and would inspire so many to do the same in the future. However, we've seen her play so many times now. We've even got to see her play on Big Brother and The Traitors in recent years. I don't know what new I could see from Cirie at this point. While I can't complain about getting more Cirie on my screen, I can't help but feel like there may have been a more exciting opportunity for a player who hasn't established their role to come and prove themselves. I feel very similarly about the next cast member, Ozzy Lush. He is a great player, especially when it comes to the physical aspects of the game, but strategically, I don't feel like his game ever took off. Ozzy is similar to Rupert in that every time we see him play the exact same way. It was entertaining for a while, but he's already had so many chances to play, I don't feel too excited about his casting. That being said, I'm sure once I see him spearfishing with a motivational monologue in the ocean, I'll be back on the Ozzy train, but for now, I'm a little disappointed. I can't say the same for our next because Benjamin Coach Wade is back for Survivor 50. Coach was certainly not on my bingo card of expected players to return for this iconic season, but ever since it was announced, I find myself getting more and more excited to see him play again. Coach is definitely one of the greatest casting choices that Survivor has ever made, and can't help but make for great TV. Sure, we've seen Coach play the game a lot at this point, but he brings something to the table that nobody else can. Blind confidence. At times I've laughed at Coach, at times I've laughed with him, and he's even emotionally impacted me to the point where I've cried. The Dragon Slayer is back, and I can't wait to see him in action. Aubrey Bronco is a very questionable casting choice in my mind. She certainly has made an impact over her 3 appearances, but I don't feel like either of her subsequent appearances touched the game that she played in her first time. She does have a reputation of being a very smart strategist, but I don't feel like there's much to her story to get particularly excited about. I wouldn't say I'm mad at this casting choice, but I'm not very excited about it either. Chrissy Hoffback is a casting choice that I never saw coming. Sure, I've heard her name thrown around over the years as a potential returner, but I always felt like they missed the boat on her. She was the first woman to win 4 individual immunities and even made it to the final 3 that season. This will be her first time returning, and I think that she's someone who will fly under the radar. I don't have too much else to say on her, but I'm sure that she will make a big splash on Survivor 50. Christian Hubicki is my number 1 favorite casting choice on this list and is one of 3 players returning from the David vs. Goliath season. Christian made a huge impression as a genius numbers guy with a quirky and witty sense of humor. Anytime he is on podcasts talking about Survivor, I have so much hearing his perspective and his statistical analysis and breakdowns. I can't believe it's taken Survivor this long to get him back on our screens, but I'm so excited to see him back for Survivor 50. I'm calling it right now. Christian Hubicki is my winner pick. Also from David vs. Goliath, we have Angelina Keeley returning. Angelina is known for her sassiness and aggressive gameplay, but is perhaps most known for her iconic moment asking Natalie back for her jacket as she was being voted out. The community has demanded Angelina's return for years now. It's not one that I'm personally as excited about, but I'm sure that she is going to bring a lot of chaos and fun back to the game. One of the most shocking casting choices is also from David vs. Goliath in the form of Mike White, also known for being the creator of White Lotus. It would be an understatement to say that Mike White is one of the most influential people working in Hollywood right now. The White Lotus is easily one of the most prestigious television series airing at the moment, and he's worked with many A-list celebrities. Bold choice, but also a loaded one, since Mike has a history of putting former players into his show, something that I'm sure is bound to affect how players treat him in the game. Beyond that, he's a very fun and super likable character with a lot of attitude and spunk, and so I am very excited to see him return. I'm just very shocked that they made that choice. Rick Devens is a player who made a huge splash on his first appearance. Not only was he responsible for many great confessionals and being a great narrator of the game, he had great idle moments, and he was the first victim of somebody sending themselves into forced fire making to take another player out. He is a player who is historied with iconic moments. He even went on to co-host the first season of the On Fire podcast with Jeff Probst himself, and is a name that's loomed over the Survivor community for a few years now. Devens wouldn't have been my first choice for Survivor 50, but I am excited to see him bring some of that positive energy back to our screens. If he makes it far, I predict that he will become one of the hugest names in the Survivor world. Getting into the new era and representing Survivor 41, we have Jonathan Young returning. He's a physical beast who made a strong impression with audiences in his first season. Although his stature thrives in the pre-merge with group challenges, he never performed particularly well when it came to the individual immunities. Strategically, there's not much to say, but he's certainly a fun player with a fun personality and one that I know fans have been actually clamoring for a while now. So, hey, Jonathan Young, can't wait to see you back. Representing one of two players from Season 45 and our first winner on this list, we have D. Valladares. D is largely known for having one of the most dominant wins in the new era and debatably one of the best wins in Survivor history. She was also involved in a showmance and dominated not only the strategic and social game, but also the physical challenges. D is a very worthy player to return to Survivor. I personally was hoping not to see any winners return for Survivor 50, but I'm sure that she is a great choice who will come to play hard. Also from Survivor 45, we have Emily Flippin. What the flip? With one of the more mind-boggling choices for the Survivor 50 casting, she was a fun player with an interesting story arc, going from being loud and abrasive, evolving to being more socially fluent. I would love to see her return in general, but she is not what I would have had in mind for 50. I don't think that there's much that stands out about her game that would warrant this spot. It's not that I'm not excited to see Emily back, I'm just questioning their choice for this casting in particular. Genevieve Mushaluk is from Survivor 47, and she will also be returning for 50. I'm very high on Genevieve overall. She was considered a strong player with a balanced game during her season. I don't have that much to say on her, other than her legacy is that of an intense rivalry between Rachel, who won that season. She's a player that can likely fly under the radar, at least for the pre-merge, and has strong upside as a potential winner. Representing Survivor 46 and one of my favorite seasons in the new era, we actually have three players, Tiffany being the most controversial one of the three in my opinion. This one, like Emily, is a total surprise to me. This is a player who I would love to see play on a second chance season, but really, Survivor 50? I don't see how she made it onto the 50 cast when we have players like Carolyn or even Say from 48 who didn't make the cut. She was a strong player but didn't make it too far and isn't known for any major moves. I suspect her inclusion has more to do with bouncing off of the other players from her season than are her individual merits. That being said, she is another player that will likely fly under the radar and has a good chance of actually winning. Watch out, Santa Claus, because Christmas might be getting canceled after Survivor 50 because Q Burdett is back. This was one of the more expected casting decisions for 50. Q is an absolute walking icon and is known for so many funny moments from his season. From his canceling Christmas catchphrase or saying big mistake when anyone slightly goes against him, all the way to his iconic Q skirt fashion choice. I can't wait to see Q shake it up on Survivor 50. There's so many old school era players that I'm excited to see be forced to interact with Q, because he's really just like a hurricane, and if you get close to him, you'll be swept up in his wake. Also from Survivor 46, we have Charlie back. This is another one of my favorite casting choices on this season. On his season, Charlie was my winner pick, and I believe he was robbed of his win. Kenzie ended up just beating him in the final tribal by 1 vote. In my eyes, it was clear that he was the better physical and strategic player, but it seems like his social game must have been lacking because she just was able to squeeze out the win ahead of him. I knew that he would be back on our screens at some point, and I'm very hyped to see them bring him back for Survivor 50. Shockingly, we have 3 players returning from Survivor 48, which is the most recent season that aired. This is surprising because from what I've seen online, this was a very poorly received season. A lot of people have critiques that it was a little boring. It's one that I enjoyed a lot, but I definitely see those critiques overall. The first of these players that will be back is Joe Hunter. He played a dominant game in 48 and was commonly expected to be the winner. He ultimately only received 1 vote, but he made a huge splash with his connection with Eva and his physical domination in the game. He's strategically weaker than most, but I think that fans will be excited to see him for sure. Camilla coming back was a total shock for me, as she was not even on my radar as a potential 50 returner. She played a great strategic game, and is another player who could definitely slip under the radar and make it very far. I just don't have much to say other than that I'm excited to see how she's going to shift her game after having such a big narrative on 48. Kyle, being the winner of Survivor 48, will also be back for 50. He, more than any of the players, has the odds stacked against him. Not only will he be the most recent winner of Survivor, especially from the point of view of everyone who will be on the island, but he will be playing with his number 1 ally in Camilla and his best friend in Joe. No doubt he will be targeted early in the game, but I'm excited to see if he can navigate his way through it. At the time of this recording, there are 2 more slots that have not been revealed from Survivor 49. Since we don't have those revealed, I don't have too much to speak on that at the moment. Overall, I'm very excited about the casting for Survivor 50. I do think that there's areas of major snubs like Jam Jam, Carolyn, and Rob Cesternino, just to say a few, but there are still many players for me to get hyped about. In my mind, Survivor 50 can't come sooner, and I'm so excited to celebrate what will be 25 years of a great game. What do you think of the Survivor cast? Are there other players that should have been included that were overlooked? I have a lot of thoughts on Survivor in general, so if this video does well, I'd be happy to dive into more topics, like getting into all of the major snubs for Survivor 50 and other Survivor greatness. But I would love to hear what you have to say. I know that this cast is going to be crazy, but I'm also positive that it's going to be a lot of fun. Let me know what you have to say down in the comment section. As always, my name is Darius Cook, and remember that I love you.